Experience the rise and fall of New York during the 1929 crash and the Great Depression. Journey through time with colorized photos. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more historical insights. In October 1929, the United States faced an unprecedented financial crisis. On the 24th of that month, known as Black Thursday, the New York Stock Exchange plummeted. Investors, gripped by panic over rampant speculation, sold their stocks en masse, leading to a significant loss of market value in just one day. This event marked the beginning of the Great Depression. The crisis deepened shortly after the devastating collapses known as Black Monday and Black Tuesday, on October 28 and 29, where the stock market suffered losses of 13% and 12% of its value, respectively. These events triggered an era of profound economic recession in the United States, marked by bank failures, rising unemployment, and a prolonged decline in economic production. A notable moment from this period occurred when children took to the streets in an organized protest, demanding better housing conditions. These young protesters, representing the struggles faced by their families, became symbols of the need for social change. In the Lower East Side of New York City, the impact of the economic crisis was evident. During this time, more than 50 bread lines emerged to alleviate the daily hunger of approximately 50,000 people. This scene depicts a long line of unemployed and homeless men waiting to receive a free meal at a municipal shelter. In another common scene on the streets of New York, an elderly woman receives her Thanksgiving food ration while a line of hungry people waits for the same benefit. This highlights the long queues for basic resources, reflecting the widespread poverty and mass unemployment that plagued the country during that time. With the alarming unemployment figures, many struggled to survive day by day, like this man lying on the city's docks. The struggle and determination of Americans during these tough times is evident in images like this one, where a woman pushes a stroller while pulling her belongings in a sack. The image captures the resilience of citizens in the face of extreme economic adversity. In 1930, a sea of angry people gathered outside the Bank of United States in southern Manhattan. The reason? The sudden financial collapse of the bank, a scene underscored by the desperation of the situation, which contributed to economic instability throughout the country. As New York City faced deep economic crises, grand construction projects rose up. Buildings like the Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building, and Rockefeller Center are examples of structures that redefined the city's skyline, while simultaneously representing symbols of hope and resilience for the population. However, it's important to remember that many of these projects were initiated before the 1929 crash and financed with capital raised prior to the collapse. During that time, New York's skyline became a stage for a race to reach new heights. While the country faced the severity of the Great Depression, the Empire State Building was rising. In the background of this image stands the Chrysler Building. The construction of these giants is a testament to human resilience and the ability to overcome adversity through innovation. The Chrysler Building, one of the greatest achievements of Art Deco architecture, was completed in 1930. Its distinctive profile redefined the cityscape. Amidst this backdrop, workers at dizzying heights shaped steel and concrete, contributing to one of the greatest engineering feats of the 20th century and embodying the indomitable spirit of a nation seeking renewal after a period of challenges. The Empire State Building was being constructed. The building began to take shape in 1930, symbolizing a spark of hope and progress. The workers involved in the construction of this skyscraper faced grueling labor during a time when jobs were scarce and the American economy was experiencing severe hardships. Workers defied extreme heights as they audaciously navigated while suspended from a crane hook, reflecting the human need to overcome challenges even during severe times. This worker, suspended from a steel beam, is involved in the construction of the Empire State Building, showcasing the audacity and danger faced by people of the time who had to survive during the crisis period. This image also captures a worker helping to raise the iconic building, highlighting the impressive height at which the work took place and the resilient spirit of those who literally built the foundations of the modern American metropolis. Here we see two waiters, in an act of balance and bravery, serving lunch to steelworkers seated on a beam during the construction of what would become the famous Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York, marking the continued progress even amid the economic adversity of the Great Depression. During this period, figures from New York's underworld like Charles Lucky Luciano gained notoriety. His arrest for leading a prostitution ring highlights how organized crime flourished by exploiting the economic conditions of the time and the previous decade's prohibition. Luciano, along with gangsters such as Bugsy Siegel and Meyer Lansky, was instrumental in structuring the Five Families, shaping the New York Mafia into the form we recognize today. In 1931, the Empire State Building was nearing completion. The construction, an impressive feat of engineering and human labor, transformed New York's skyline and symbolized the ability to overcome and grow during the most challenging times. And despite widespread economic hardship, New York continued to reshape its skyline with numerous construction projects. On September 20th, 1932, workers were photographed calmly having lunch on a steel beam over 244 meters above the ground at the RCA Building construction site in Rockefeller Center. The Great Depression ushered in an era of extreme hardship in the United States, with New York City being one of the hardest-hit areas. By 1932, it was estimated that half of the city's factories had shut down, one-third of New Yorkers were unemployed, and approximately 1.6 million people relied on some form of government assistance to survive. The streets of Lower Manhattan bore a somber testament to this crisis, with unemployed men living in makeshift conditions. The extent of the Great Depression in New York was evident in the breadlines, where families struggled to obtain the bare essentials for daily survival. These lines became a symbol of the tough times faced by many people. Even in the darkest moments, institutions like the St. Peter's Mission persevered to alleviate human suffering, distributing food to those in need. The long lines of New Yorkers waiting for food highlight not only the struggle for survival, but also the community solidarity that emerged in the face of economic adversity. During this critical period, scarcity and hope were shared. The extent of poverty in New York became undeniably visible. In response, Mayor LaGuardia implemented decisive public policies, including the reform, demolition, or reconstruction of thousands of tenements and slums. This era of change was a prelude to a period of remarkable economic growth in the following decades. The economic collapse hit New York hard, and this reality was reflected in the image of an unemployed man reading a newspaper in his makeshift home, a symbol of the desolation that engulfed many urban spaces. In 1933, a group of single and unemployed women took to the streets of New York. They marched with a clear purpose: to demand job opportunities. This mobilization highlights the struggle of women and marks a significant moment in the history of social movements in the United States. In that year, many New Yorkers found refuge in makeshift settlements known as Hoovervilles, named after President Herbert Hoover, whom many blamed for the economic crisis. One such settlement emerged in the heart of Central Park, where shanties covered with tarps and wood became the temporary home for those who had lost everything in the market collapse. In 1933, a group of World War I veterans boards a bus in Lower Manhattan. They are headed to Fort Slocum, New York, where a government relief program promised reforestation jobs at $1 a day, a desperate attempt to provide for their livelihoods. In the same year, New York witnessed the completion of 30 Rockefeller Center, a symbol of resilience and hope. This imposing structure not only defied the Great Depression with its majestic Art Deco architecture, but also sparked a wave of optimism for economic recovery and progress. In 1934, the Great Depression reached its peak. The harsh reality was captured in images of unemployed men sitting on the docks, reflecting the despair experienced by many marginalized citizens who were waiting for better days. A child sitting on the fire escape of their tenement represents the everyday aspects of life for many who faced extreme economic hardship during one of the worst crises in American history. In the heart of Manhattan, Fulton Market fishermen carefully weighed their catch. Amid the crisis, these small daily tasks reflected the persistence of New Yorkers in their quest for livelihood. This market, one of the city's oldest, became a symbol of the community's ongoing struggle. In 1934, New York witnessed the opening of Radio City Music Hall. This grand theater became a beacon of hope and renewal, providing entertainment and an escape for thousands of people facing hardships. Amidst the highs and lows of Manhattan in 1935, unemployed men find themselves in a scene of struggle and desolation. Surrounded by makeshift wooden shelters that make up their improvised neighborhood, they share cigarettes, seeking brief relief amidst the harsh reality. In the same year, a worker is seen resting on the structure of an unfinished building, with Manhattan in the background. This period was marked by intense urban development despite economic hardships, reflecting the city's ongoing pursuit of growth and renewal. In the 1936 scene, we see the Manhattan Bridge from the intersection of Pike and Henry Streets. This usually bustling and vibrant location appears desolate and littered, highlighting the severe impact of the crisis on urban life. Bathgate Avenue in the Bronx became a refuge for federal subsistence colonists migrating from New Jersey. These individuals sought to escape the devastating effects of the Great Depression, looking for a fresh start in urban areas offering government resettlement programs. Federal initiatives aim to alleviate extreme poverty and revitalize communities through relocation and agricultural support. This vacant lot in the South Bronx captures the solitary essence of the era. While many struggled for basic resources, this emptiness represents the economic ruin of a time of trials, yet also of new beginnings. A scene from the Bronx in 1936 shows three women chatting while, in the background, a child plays in a store window and another enjoys the curb. Children found their play space on the less favored streets of the Bronx. With limited resources or suitable recreational areas, they used whatever was available, such as the curbs, to create moments of joy and play. On the Upper East Side, the grim daily life is highlighted by clotheslines stretching across the crowded courtyard of a tenement building. This scene underscores the density and cramped conditions many New Yorkers lived in, while also reflecting the sense of community among neighbors. In 1936, Tallman Street in northwestern Brooklyn presents a typical urban environment of the era, characterized by its sturdy architecture and the somewhat desolate appearance of the streets. With few pedestrians and visible signs of the economic challenges faced by New York City residents during that decade, the scene captures the struggles of the time. A family gathered on the steps of their home on J Street in Brooklyn is a common scene where such family moments served as a small refuge from the everyday hardships. Even in times of crisis, the sense of community and unity prevailed among the city's residents. On the streets of Brooklyn, a man turned necessity into innovation by creating a mobile tinware shop. With tools hanging and pieces shining under the summer sun, he traveled through every alley, offering repairs and new products, keeping the flame of his trade and livelihood alive. In 1936, young people gathered in front of campaign posters for President Franklin D. Roosevelt in Midtown Manhattan. The promises of relief and recovery through federal programs were seen as a lifeline for many citizens affected by the economic crisis. This scene captures a historic moment, the first session of the National Communist Convention, held at the Opera House in Manhattan on June 24, 1936. Amidst the height of the Great Depression, with rising unemployment and poverty, ideologies like communism gained traction among New Yorkers desperate for change. In the following year, New York City became the stage for significant labor movements. At that time, Woolworth's employees went on strike, fighting for a right that now seems fundamental: the 40-hour work week. This movement was a crucial step in the struggle for American workers' rights. A woman on 7th Avenue in Manhattan, on strike, represents the struggle and resilience of the labor movement. She was part of a broader effort to demand workers' rights and better living conditions, symbolizing the protests and hardships faced by workers during that period. The Williamsburg Bridge, viewed from the Brooklyn side in 1937, not only connected areas, but also highlighted the robustness of engineering and the critical need for infrastructure to meet the growing demands of a city in crisis. Inside McSorley's Old Ale House, one of New York's oldest pubs, the atmosphere captured a vivid snapshot of daily life in the East Village during the Great Depression. This establishment, known for its long history and resilience, served as a refuge and gathering spot, enduring through both prosperous and challenging times. A young shoeshine boy worked diligently in front of the New York Savings Bank, facing a daily struggle for survival shared by many. With limited resources and few options, These child workers often found themselves at the forefront of the fight for existence during a brutal economic period. In this 1938 image, men are seen on the streets of New York, in front of a poultry shop. The hardships of the era, marked by unemployment and economic difficulties, are evident in the men's posture and expressions, reflecting their struggle for survival during times of scarcity. Even amidst economic difficulties, life continued in New York's immigrant communities. In 1939, in the heart of Brownsville, Brooklyn, the street market sold everything from fruits to clothing, becoming an essential hub of commerce. In 1940, while the Great Depression still echoed through the streets of New York, Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia spoke to the public during a radio broadcast. Elected in 1933, LaGuardia, the son of immigrants, became the city's first mayor of Southern or Eastern European descent, representing the impoverished immigrant populations. His administration, marked by close ties with President Franklin D. Roosevelt, was crucial in implementing social and economic relief programs aimed at supporting New Yorkers during the challenging times of the Depression.